Hello and good morning, MYM Insiders. How's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw, and we're here for our strategic marketing webinar today. And I want to thank you for joining me, and also thank you for accommodating a little bit of an unusual schedule. We typically do webinars like this on Thursdays. However, we did bump this one to Friday, as will we bump next Thursday's webinar also to Friday, simply because there's just a lot of webinars that we've been doing this last couple of weeks. As I traditionally am, I was off the first 2 weeks of July. That's when I take my annual vacation. So we have to cram a lot of webinars into a fairly short amount of time at the end of the month of July, and to give us a little bit more breathing room, we decided to do this one on Friday. So thank you for that. Today's topic is one that really is not a super long, drawn-out kind of a topic. I don't think it's going to take probably even the full hour, maybe 45 minutes or something like that. Of course, usually when I say that on a webinar, I end up going for an hour and 15 minutes. But maybe not on this one. I want to talk about platitudes a little bit. A lot of times during training, I have questions that come up frequently about platitudes, and it seems that there's times when I'm trying to use platitudes that make sense to me, that other people see them and go, hey, there's a platitude, and they try to throw a yellow flag on me, and they say, hey, why are you using a platitude here? Or, hey, isn't that a platitude? Or they kind of take this attitude that platitudes should be, they should be avoided at all costs. And on one hand, that is absolutely true. We want to avoid using platitudes at all costs. On the other hand, there are certain times when things that appear to be platitudes, or indeed are platitudes, are either okay to use or are useful in the process. And that's what I want to discuss today, is when platitudes are okay to use. Now, here's what you're not going to hear. You're not going to hear some sort of reversal of philosophy that, hey, now we're going to start using marketing with platitudes in it. That's absolutely not the case. Differentiation, saying things in a powerful, passionate, precise way, the concept of identity, these things are all alive and well. They're not going anywhere. They're principles that are eternal, that are going to stay there, that have been there for a long time, and they're going to continue to be there for a long time. And especially here at MYM, where those are the foundational, bedrock, keystone concepts that we preach and talk about, they're not going anywhere. But I do want to clear up a little bit of confusion. So with that being said, let's look at platitudes revisited, when to use them, when to avoid them, and how to tell the difference. That's really the main issue here. So we'll start here. Some of this is by way of review, particularly for those of you who are longtime MYMers. This is a lawsuit that goes back to the early 1990s, the middle to late 1990s. And I'm here in Dallas area, so this was pretty topical back in those days around this locale, because Papa John's had a lawsuit filed against them by Pizza Hut. The Pizza Hut Corporation is here located in Dallas. I've actually done some consulting with them in the middle 2000s, which was kind of interesting, a whole different story. Won't get into that. But these two companies were embroiled in a very bitter lawsuit. It dragged on for a long time. It ended up costing each of them in the neighborhood of $10 million in litigation fees. And it went all the way up to the level of the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court refused to hear the case. And the case was a false advertising case, again, launched by Pizza Hut against Papa John's for exactly what you see on the screen right now. Their tagline, as you may be aware, was, and still is, better ingredients, better pizza. And they launched a campaign around this slogan, Papa John's did, that talked about their tomatoes and how it was fresh, and their cheese and how it was made, and their dough and how it was, made in the stores, and all these different things that tried to persuade customers that they indeed did have better ingredients, and therefore they had better pizza. And Pizza Hut said, hey, this is not true. It's false advertising. Our ingredients are also good. They're probably better than Papa John's in some cases. And they tried to defend, or actually they didn't defend, they tried to prosecute this case based on factual data that they were actually better than Papa John's. Well, this thing went back and forth. It got ruled on by judge after judge, and it finally got overturned and appealed. And the final judgment on it was that it was okay for Papa John's to say better ingredients and better pizza, because the judge used the word puffery. He said this is considered to be advertising puffery. Now we're going to use a word that's a little bit different, platitude. But these two words can be virtually synonymous, platitude and puffery. And the judge said that because nobody literally believes that it's true, and nobody would be materially persuaded by a concept of the word better, that it didn't matter, that it was okay to use it. And the judge stated that if it were necessary for Papa John's to prove that they had better ingredients, that it would also be imperative that BMW proves somehow empirically that they have indeed the ultimate driving machine, which some of their competitors might take issue with. So it came down to this idea of slogans versus reality versus literal versus puffery. Long story short, Papa John's won the suit. Got thrown out. Supreme Court refused to hear it. They said, we're not going to waste our time. It's already been ruled on. Well, so here's what we've got. We've got this thing called platitudes. As you may be aware, platitudes are words or phrases that are really commonplace and predictable. They lack power to evoke interest through overuse or repetition, nevertheless stated as if they were original or significant. This is a platitude. You probably know that because you're an MYM person that hangs around and listens to MYM. Now, that being said, examples of platitudes, we've got the best service, highest quality, largest selection, free estimates. We've been in business since 1431 BC. All these kinds of things. And these are bad. These are things that we don't want to say in our marketing necessarily. So just a couple of examples. Here's one for a company called Baker Commercial Realty. We go the extra mile for our clients. Knowledge, expertise, determinations, all reasons that clients like i2 Technologies, Pritzker Realty Group, and Trinity Wireless turned to Baker Commercial when they needed commercial real estate expertise. And the fact that we perform by going the extra mile for our clients, question mark, I don't think that's even grammatically correct, is the reason we enjoy long-term relationships and repeat assignments with so many of our clients, lease negotiations, blah, blah, blah. So we came up with platitude evaluations early on in Monopolize Your Marketplace. We came up with one that said, well, I would hope so. Is this something that a prospect would read and say to themselves, well, I would hope so? And then you've got the who else can say that? Who else could say that? Which of the competitors of Baker Commercial Realty could say knowledge, expertise, determinations, all reasons that clients have turned to us when they needed commercial real estate expertise? And the answer is they would all say that. Even if they couldn't deliver on it, they could say that. And they do say that. And we know by experience that companies are going to put their best face forward. They're going to talk about things that are flattering to them. They're going to avoid conversations, especially in their marketing, about things that are not flattering to them. And they're going to say things like, we go the extra mile for our clients, when in fact we could probably prove empirically in a court of law that there were probably cases where this client did not in fact go the extra mile for their client. Okay, ATV Moving, locally owned and operated. This is Yellow Pages ad. No hidden charges, flat rate pricing, or hourly, dedicated to satisfaction. My favorite, dedicated to satisfaction. All right, they're fully insured, 24-hour service, 7 days a week, courteous, experienced, professional personnel. Look for the squirrel, we make moving fun. Well, that's my favorite. It kills me every time I see it. Look for the squirrel, as if that indicates good moving somehow. And the idea here, again, is that these are platitudes. One more example, maybe two more. MJ's Automotive, using the Rotec diagnostic system, whatever that is, in-house, Suburban, Jeep, Cadillac, Nissan, maintenance, foreign and domestic, air conditioning. And it's just sort of a laundry list, what we call a menu board style ad that tells what we do. So platitudes. Doesn't mean that it's terrible. It just means that it's not helping to differentiate and distinguish. It more is a description of here's what we do, not necessarily why we're better. And then this is one for sharp image, quality, reliability, service. Sharp copiers and Southeast office systems bring a higher level of productivity to your office, high volume performance, outstanding reliability, razor sharp copy, keep you ahead of your copying demands. It doesn't really even mean anything, keeps you ahead of your copying demands. Define what that means. It doesn't mean anything. It's just some kind of platitudinous bull crap that somebody thought up because they had to fill some copy next to the copy machine in the copier ad. So they wrote this junk. Nobody really thought about it. It looked good to the owner of the company, and it went and it ran. Not a big deal, okay? So it kind of sounds like this, and you've heard me talk about this before, but I actually found a clip. I'm going to pull it up so you can listen to it. This is what it sounds like. Oh, it's running again. Okay, I couldn't help it. So this is kind of what's happening. I think what's interesting about that video clip is not just that the teacher speaks like that, but the reaction of Peppermint Patty is that she just absolutely falls asleep. And I think that's the absolute accurate description of what happens when people hear platitudes. They mentally just check out and they fall asleep, right? So we don't want to say things that sounds like Charlie Brown's mom. That's obvious. So let's talk about, well, why do platitudes fail? And there's an interesting book by Malcolm Gladwell. You know, I don't know exactly how actionable Malcolm Gladwell's books are, but they're very interesting. And he's got this book called Blink. I think it came out in around 2005 or something like that. And it's called The Power of Thinking Without Thinking. It's the subtitle of it. You can see it there on the screen. So what is that on the screen there? I don't know what that is on the screen. Something's on the screen beside, next to the book. Anyway, here's why platitudes fail. And we can find the theory in this book called Blink. And in this book called Blink, Malcolm Gladwell argues very persuasively that we're conditioned to very quickly dredge our mental archives, and based on our plethora of experience that we have in any given situation, we can draw very, very quick and generally very accurate conclusions. And the key thing there is generally very accurate conclusions. When you walk outside and it smells like rain and it's overcast, we have instantaneously enough information to look up and say it's probably about to rain. That doesn't mean it always rains, but you probably would want to bring an umbrella, right? And we can do this on any number of things and any number of situations. And the book goes into infinity examples of ways that people make decisions without thinking. Well, here's how this relates to marketing. In marketing, when you've got an advertisement or a brochure or a website or a what have you that contains platitudes, people have a way of reading it, hearing it, listening to it, absorbing it, and drawing a conclusion that says to them in their brain, oh, this is a platitude. Now, they don't use the word platitude when they're thinking about it, but here's what they know. There's nothing in here that is genuine, that is real, that is important, that is relevant, that is interesting, that is decision facilitating type of information. It's all just a bunch of junk that the person put in here to make the thing sound good, and I don't really need to pay attention. And even if I were to pay attention, the return on that attention investment would be minimal to nothing, because the information that is found here is not relevant and important and all those things that I just said, okay? That's the instantaneous conclusion people draw when they encounter platitudes. So the net result is that they instantaneously, like Peppermint Patty, tune out, fall asleep, quit paying attention. You know, we've talked in MYM lingo about alpha mode and beta mode. We don't need to get into all that right now. If you're not familiar with it, go listen to a CD because it's on there. But the reality is they go to sleep mode and they just don't pay any attention. Let's read this description on this ad for Top Brass Pool. Top Brass by Dynamo, richly colored, heavy gauge blue cloth accentuated with luxurious polished brass trim are combined with all the exclusive Donahoe features to ensure Top Brass will be your top earner. The same reliable, trouble-free operation you've come to expect is standard in this location-proven winner. Contact your local authorized Donahoe distributor for more information. And people read that and they go, okay, it doesn't really give me any information that's worthwhile. This is the before website of one of our current customers, Incognito Custom Closets. If you want to see the after, simply go to Incognito Custom Closets, you'll see it. But this is one of the best examples of platitudes. It's in their website. You'll notice there's no headlines at all. There's a logo, but there's no headlines. And so if somebody gets brave enough to try to read this text, look at what they come up with. I mean, I couldn't come up with a better definition of a platitude if I sat down and I tried to write it. I would just copy this because this is fantastic if you want something fantastically bad. Incognito Custom Closets has been manufacturing custom closet organizing systems since 1994. Our meticulous attention to detail, just pause right there. When we say our meticulous attention to detail, automatically, via this concept called blink that Malcolm Gladwell talks about in this book, where people have the ability to make instantaneous decisions based on their previous experience, when they hear you launching into the discussion of our meticulous attention to detail and unwavering commitment to the highest standards of quality, they know that this is a bunch of platitudinous advertisees bullcrap. Doesn't mean that they think that you're lying. It doesn't mean that they think you're trying to intentionally deceive them. It means that they know that you're intentionally putting your best foot forward, and what you are saying is not necessarily representative of how things actually are. And here's the net result. They don't even read the whole paragraph. I promise you, out of 1,000 people that start reading this paragraph, 999 to 1,000 of them will not even make it to the end. Our dedicated team of professionals has many years of experience in all aspects of the process, from development and design through precision manufacturing installation. Our outstanding sales and service group are focused on your complete satisfaction. There's no reason to read that because you know that it doesn't mean anything, okay? Have I made the point? I probably have. So, are platitudes the big bad wolf? Is it all bad? Is it something that we have to just completely abandon? And the answer is kind of yes, but in some cases, no. And I want to cover those cases with you right now. Sometimes it's okay. Don't automatically throw all platitudes out all the time. Situations where they work, there are two. Number one is what I call mountaintop platitudes. And I'll discuss that in a moment. And number two is using the MYM methodology. And this is the place, number two, MYM methodology, where MYM customers tend to get tripped up the most. And that's where I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you today talking through the methodology a little bit, okay? So let's first, though, quickly talk about mountaintop platitudes. Now, here's what I mean when I say mountaintop platitudes. Okay, let's have a discussion here. I'm not going to throw 1,000 bullet points on a slide. I'm just going to talk with you, and I want you to understand some concepts. In marketing advertising, obviously there's different kinds of situations, different scenarios. I want to talk to you about a scenario where either in an advertisement or in a campaign, a company has done a sufficiently good job of creating an identity, communicating an identity, and making the prospect understand who they are, what they do, how they're different, why they're better, in doing it in a way that has power, precision, and passion. Okay, I've just described the concept of identity. When this has happened, either in a ad, I guess it would be in an ad, or in the totality of a campaign, meaning over the course of multiple ads, then to use platitudes in certain situations is going to work, and it's going to work just fine. Let me give you an example. I'm going to pause my screen for a minute, and then I'm going to pull up a radio ad that I want you to listen to. All right, give me just a second. You would think that I would have this radio ad on standby, and I almost do, but not exactly. Very close, though. Okay, this is an advertisement just one second. Okay, this is an advertisement for a company that I work with. That's a heating and air conditioning company. And this heating and air conditioning company has long-term campaigns that we run on television and on the radio. Let me tell you about the radio campaigns for a minute. We are on a total of 4 radio stations. 3 of them are very large stations. 1 of them is a little bit smaller. And we run 5 different advertisements during the course of a given month. And each of the advertisements is designed to tell differences of this company, how they work, how they operate, why they're different, why they're better. It's a heating and air conditioning company. So I'm going to play for you an example of one of these ads, okay? Let me find one that looks good here. Okay, this is one called, Do You Really Want the Cheapest? Listen to this.
There are some things in life you simply don't want to be the cheapest. Imagine your daughter who's getting married. Would you want to start by trying to find the cheapest dress possible? Of course not. You also don't want the cheapest car or mattress or the cheapest brain surgery. So why would you want the cheapest air conditioning system? If it's the cheapest, there's probably a reason. Maybe the company doesn't pay its technicians well, or they can't afford to attract top talent. Maybe they only have a few trucks, so you have to wait a week or so to get the system installed. Or maybe the system won't be installed the right way, and you'll have to deal with a bunch of problems. Call Horizon Services instead. Our technicians know exactly what they're doing. We refuse to cut corners on installations, and we offer the longest warranties. We're widely considered to be the best air conditioning company in the area. Not the cheapest, the best. Call us now. Take it.
Okay. There was a pinnacle, look at your screen, pinnacle statement on that ad that said, we're not the cheapest, we're the highest quality, we're the best. Now, the word best is a platitude. But in the totality of this advertisement, where we've taken time to set a foundation for not wanting the cheapest, telling what we do and what others do, specifically what others do that makes them not expensive, what we do that potentially makes us expensive, which are also the things that make us high quality and therefore the best. When we get to the pinnacle of that conversation, we can say things like, we're not the cheapest, we're the best. And it has weight and it has gravity. Now, a lot of people would look at that and say, well, isn't saying you're the best, isn't that a platitude? Well, look at the image on your screen right now. It's an image of a man standing on a mountain holding a flag. Now think about this metaphor of putting a flag on a mountain. The reason that you put a flag on a mountain is to show that you've conquered something. You don't walk into the middle of a field in a prairie in the middle of Kansas and put your flag down because people would think you look like an idiot. You don't conquer a field. You just walk in a field. It's not a conquerable, noteworthy, praiseworthy, award-worthy, flag planting worthy endeavor. It's just not. But if you climb a mountain, there's some effort there. There's some foundation. There's something under your feet when you get to the top that shows and symbolizes what you've achieved, and that's when you plant flags. That is achievement that is worthy of praise, that is worthy of recognition, and is worthy of planting a flag. So what I'm telling you is if you take your platitude and you stick it on a flag, it's okay to do that as long as it sits on top of a mountain of what? A mountain of evidence, a mountain of explanation, a mountain of facilitating the decision-making process, a mountain of helping people understand the important relevant issues. Then you can plant the flag because now it means something in that context, okay? Now, I said earlier, there's 2 things, either in the context of an advertisement or in the context of a campaign. Let me give you a couple of examples here. In this campaign for this air conditioning company that we're talking about, they run a sufficiently large quantity of ads on the stations that they're on that do a sufficiently good job of explaining who they are, how they're different, why they're better, identity, right? That it's also okay to run shorter ads. The ad that you just heard was a 60-second ad. We also have 30-second ads. It's also okay, though, to run short ads, 15s, 10s, even 5-second ads, where we have no ability to do anything other than state the high-level hot button, fastest serviced, no overtime charges, longest warranties, on time or it's free. Things that in and of themselves are platitudes, but because of the depth and width and breadth of the entire campaign, in other words, the mountain that we've built, it becomes okay to use these shorter ads that simply have platitudes, because we're relying on the frequency of the listenership to help that person see the mountain, so that when they see the flag is a hot button. When they see that flag, they say to themselves, oh, it's that company. It's that company. Okay, let me have you listen to a couple of other ads so you can get an idea. Okay. Now, this is an ad where we want people to understand a concept that they have expertise in installation of air conditioning systems. Okay, are you with me? Installation expertise. Now, one way to say that is, hey, we've got expert installers. Here's another way to say it.
When you've got a clogged drain, what do you think is worse? Shoving a screwdriver, coat hanger, or snake down a...
Whoops, wrong ad. Here's the one I meant to play.
Let's say you need heart surgery, and a doctor walked in with a sharp knife, some gauze, and a copy of Heart Surgery for Dummies. Would you care? Of course you would. Installing a new air conditioner may not be life or death, but trust me, the last thing you want is a guy who just graduated from air conditioning school who has no idea what he's doing. 75% of the efficiency of a new air conditioner comes from proper installation. If the ductwork isn't configured the right way, or the unit's too big or too small for your home will be uncomfortable, and you'll be wasting money on your energy bills. So call Horizon Services. Our technicians attend 150 hours a year of mandatory technical classroom training every year, even if they've been with us for 20 years. We insist on installing every unit exactly right the first time, period. Call us now and take advantage of our big...
Okay, so you get the idea there. Now, I'm going to play for you a final ad, and then we're going to move on to the next part of this discussion. I'm going to play an ad for you that, without the rest of this context of literally running these ads now for 19 consecutive months, 5 different ads, all geared towards helping people understand who, how, why, identity. Here's an ad that focuses on the word best. And it might sound a little bit of a platitude, but it works in this context. Listen to this.
You know, when you go to buy some things, you can choose from good, better, best. It's a way of giving you pricing options depending on the level of quality you're willing to pay for. Well, at Horizon Services, we don't offer good, better, or best, because quite frankly, we only ever do things the best way possible. We only sell and install the best air conditioning systems, and if it can't be warranted for 10 or 12 years, we simply won't sell it. Every single one of our technicians is constantly trained on the latest and best installation methods, which means you'll get the best system installed by the best technicians that'll last the longest and save you money on your cooling bills and require the least amount of maintenance. So at Horizon Services, your choice isn't good, better, or best. It's best, best, or best. It's the only way we do things. Call Horizon Service now. Take advantage of huge savings.
Okay, so you get the idea there. Hopefully that's becoming clear. The concept is called the mountaintop platitude. The mountaintop is the flag that is the platitude that you plant on top of the mountain. The top of the mountain can either be within a single advertisement where you've relayed sufficiently enough foundation so that people can hear your platitude and say, okay, there's context, there's a frame of reference for me to understand it, or it can also be within the context of an entire campaign. So those are some situations where platitudes are okay to use. And I want to move to the second one now. So let me go back over here. Let's talk about methodology. This is another area where platitudes come into very definite use. Methodology, I'm talking about the MYM methodology. By definition, we start with hot buttons. And by definition, hot buttons are platitudes, okay? If we looked at your, well, let's just take this company we've been talking about, Horizon Services, the air conditioning company. If we were to say, why would you want to do business with this company? The basic level answers are platitudes because they're hot buttons. By definition, they're just a little statement. The statement is, we're faster. We've got better technicians. We've got a higher commitment to quality and service. We don't charge extra. And all of these things and more that I haven't mentioned would be in and of themselves, simply put, they're platitudes. But in the methodology, it's extraordinarily important that we start with platitudes. But you know what? This freaks people out because they've heard me talk about platitudes like I've done in this webinar and Charlie Brown's teachers and parents and, you know, all these things. And they say, well, we can't even tolerate a platitude for 5 seconds. And the reality is, well, yeah, we can. In the methodology, we identify hot buttons in categories: vendor selection, benefits of ownership, objections to ownership. We rank them, and then we write anchor statements, and then we write headlines. And as we go through this process, we start to take these hot buttons and we start to transform them into something that are not platitudes by making them continually more and more detailed, emotional, and full of passion, power, and precision. That's what the anchor statement and the headlines are designed to do, okay? So if we go off trail here for just a second, let me pull this up. All righty. On your screen now is a copy of the MYM methodology. And if it's not there, it's coming shortly. There it is. And you'll see on here on the methodology overview, if we go to Educational Spectrum and we click on this. Now, if you haven't seen this before, you're not familiar with this, it's because you haven't been to our MYM live training. But let's take a look. This is one that we did for alternative cancer treatments, a company that specializes in that. If you look down here, we've got benefits of ownership, objections to ownership, and vendor selection. And by definition, we only give in this worksheet that much space to even write the hot button. There's no room to write a longer, more descriptive kind of overview of what this is. Benefits of ownership. Treatment isn't working. Our cancer treatments work better survival rates. Why would somebody want to buy alternative cancer treatments? It's easier on the body, less likely to relapse, cures the underlying cause. What are the objections to ownership? Costs too much. People think it's weird. They think it won't work. Why would you want to buy this from us? We treat causes, not just symptoms. We have expertise. You know, let's look at this expertise thing. I mean, this is a very overused platitude in much marketing. Our people are experts. Our people have been trained. Our people are certified. Our people are better. Our people are the difference. It's our people that make the difference. And we hear things like this all the time to the extent, based on the concept of blink, think, Malcolm Gladwell, that people just immediately ignore it and let it go past their heads. But the reality is this is where we've got to start, expertise. So what we want to do then is come up here to these benefits of ownership HBOS hot button overview sheet, or for whichever one we want. Let's go to vendor selection. And we come in here and we look at expertise and we fill out an anchor statement. Now let's make this anchor statement a little bit bigger on the screen. Okay, that should make that a little bit bigger and a little bit easier to read. And in expertise, what we're trying to do is we're simply trying to answer this question. When you say expertise, well, what do you mean? And it's written from the standpoint of John Smith, first person. I want a doctor who has a ton of experience in lots of different aspects of healing. I don't want a newer doctor or one who only knows one way of doing things. I want somebody who's got a long track record of success that I can depend on to get me healed. It would be nice if the doctor had dealt frequently with my particular kind of problem in the past. That's what we mean by expertise. And then we can go over to that particular hot buttons sheet. Now we don't have it on this sheet, but we could fill these out with headlines. Let's go to an example where we do have headlines. What is the objection? The objection to ownership is people think it's weird. The anchor statement, I think alternative cancer treatment is quacky and weird. I think it's based on frou-frou science and preys on people who are desperate and willing to believe anything. I once knew a guy who was into holistic medicine who told me about alternative cancer treatment, and it just seems strange. What's going to happen? Is Mr. Miyagi going to rub his hands together real fast, rub them on my cancer, make it go away? What on earth will my friends and family think? If we go over here, we then have headlines. Let's make these a little bit bigger. I wouldn't trust that quacky alternative treatment cancer quack if my life depended on it. Why should I trust some quacky alternative treatment cancer quack? I doubt that Mr. Miyagi rubbing his hands together and putting it on my cancer is going to help it much. Those alternative guys are just quacks who prey off of people's desperation. If chemo and radiation therapy didn't work, why should I believe that some quacky doctor in Arizona can cure me with alternative stuff? And what we're doing is we're taking these hot buttons and we're using them in a first-person way to transform them. This is like the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and comes out as a beautiful butterfly. Not to sound weird about it, but that's kind of what's happening here. We're taking these platitudes and we're transforming them through this cocoon of this anchor statement into this butterfly of these headlines that are specific and that have weight and power and passion and precision. Now, I didn't go through every step of the methodology. We've also got some innovation things that we would want to talk about as we went through this process. But the reality is, it's critical that you understand as a student of MYM that these platitudes are where we start. They're the genesis. They're the seed. They're the capital that we can then grow like a seed. We don't eat seeds typically. I mean, we might eat sunflower seeds, I guess. But we don't eat seeds typically. We eat fruit that we've grown out of the seeds. We eat vegetables that we've grown out of the seeds. So we want to take these seeds that are called platitudes. We don't want to destroy them. We don't want to throw them away. We don't want to flush them down the toilet because we need them. Just like the final crop needed the seeds to get started, we've got to have those seeds in form of platitudes that we put into the ground, and we nurture them, and we prune them, and we give them water and sunshine, and we take the bugs off of them and use pesticides if we have to. And all of these things allow us to grow this platitude into something more unique and interesting and special, and something that works and that communicates with power. But if we don't start with that seed, it's a problem. So as you're going through working MYM, number one, remember, it's okay to have platitudes in the process. In fact, they're a necessary beginning seed. And number two, it's also okay to use a platitude in an environment where we've built a mountaintop and we put a flag on that mountain that can quickly allow people to see what else is underneath that flag that constitutes the foundation and substance of that mountain, whether that's quality or service or expertise or whatever it is. As long as we've built a sufficient case, we can go ahead and plop that flag on there. So those are the distinctions that I wanted to make for you when it comes to platitudes. I told you it wasn't necessarily a long webinar, but I do want to open it to questions. If anybody's got any specific questions about that, I'd be happy to take them. And if not, then I'd be happy to be done. So let me give you just a second. We've got several people on the webinar today. Thank you for attending. If you'd like to participate by asking a question, please type it into the console, and I will answer it regarding the topic of platitudes. Or if you want to raise your hand on the list, I'd be happy to unmute you and talk to you as well. We'll give it just a second here. Let's see. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Okay, I don't see any questions. I'll give it the customary going once, going twice. Even if you can't type it in all the way, just type wait, I've got a question. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and end up here. While you're doing that, by way of preview, let me tell you what's coming up next week. Next week, I've got a fantastic couple of webinars. The first one is on Tuesday, the 23rd. It's the Tuesday morning ad clinic, so please submit things that you'd like for me to review for that now. The second one is going to be held a week from today on Friday, and it's a topic that is mysterious to many people. It's search engine optimization, and I'm going to demystify it for you a little bit. So be sure to be in on that one. I don't see any questions that have come in today for our topic on demystifying platitudes, so we're going to go ahead and end up today. Thank you for attending. I hope you have a great weekend, and let us know what we can do to help you out. Thanks a lot. Bye now.